prosecution has rested in the trial of a Squeegee kid accused of shooting and killing a Baltimore driver. The 10th day in court and what comes next.
Mosquitoes carrying the West Nile virus detected in Maryland. Where and how the state is responding.
And a story you'll see only here tonight. West Baltimore residents are calling for more to be done around a troubled shopping center. Fox 45 News makes their voices heard and demands accountability.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Tonight, Fox 45 News demanding accountability for residents in West Baltimore surrounding the West Side Shopping Center. It's an area that has long been plagued with crime, violence, and open-air drug dealing.
Only on Fox 45 News tonight, you're about to hear from a widow whose husband was killed in that area. She joins other community members who say more needs to be done to stop the violence.
He was very convincing. That's why we felt that things would improve, but it's the same old, same old.
Well, Jeff Abel is live with the story you're seeing first on Fox tonight. Jeff.
The Edmondson Village Shopping Center has long been plagued with problems, and tonight there are some stinging allegations about the security firm, which some people say has no business securing that shopping center at all. For the long-timers in this community, the Edmondson Village Shopping Center is the place they once flocked. But today, it's the place they
right now. We know that they do not have evidence to support this, and more importantly, they know that they do not have the evidence to support this. Drop these charges now.
We have team coverage tonight. Mackenzie Frost with the lingering questions facing Monzi.
First, Keith Daniels with new reporting on the city council planning to hold another hearing into the shooting. Keith?
Well, Kai and Mary, Councilman Mark Conway, chairman of the council's Public Safety Committee, says he's committed to dig deeper for answers and make policy changes after that mass shooting. And tonight, there's another step in that direction.
Welcome to the Public Safety and Government Operations Committee meeting.
The date is set. A second hearing scheduled September 13th to get to the bottom of it, looking for answers in the Brooklyn Homes mass shooting. City Councilman Mark Conway, chair of the council's Public Safety Committee, expecting Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley to return to City Hall with clarity, including on what police knew about the gathering and when did they know it.
We know that multiple agencies had a role in this. Multiple agencies maybe could have done something differently or better. We know that a lot went wrong with our police department that night. And I want to make sure that we understand the problems so that we can think about sensible solutions.
Worley told the committee last week that the department was working on an after-action report, but needing time to be released at a follow-up hearing.
We're not going to have a lot of the answers within 2 weeks. We do know some things happened, and we have plenty of things to investigate: interviews, body-worn cameras, text messages, emails that we want to look at.
Council members called last week's hearing an attempt to better understand the breakdown that led to the largest mass shooting in the city's history, with 2 people dead, 28 others injured during a block party July 2nd. Tonight, Conway says he expects to see that after-action report. He has many questions that include 911 call reports and police protocol regarding large events.
How they deal with that, I think, is really important to understanding what should have happened. Those are the kinds of questions and gaps that we didn't really get to the bottom of in the hearing.
Well, moving forward, Conway says he expects police to know what's happening in their districts, and regarding large crowd events, notably those so-called pop-up events, he and other council members say they expect police to shut those events down the moment there's any sign that things may be getting out of control. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Well, Fox 45 News also trying to get some answers from the Baltimore Police Department about their response to the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, especially after we reviewed video of the party in past years showing a family-friendly atmosphere during the day, but guns and drugs at night.
I think there's several reasons why the criminal element comes out at night versus the day.
Still ahead, the ongoing questions we have about how police handled the annual party in years past and why they didn't find out about this year's event sooner.
Councilman Yitchi Schleifer of Baltimore is also talking about the mayor's office of neighborhood safety and engagement. He accuses Monzi of not answering basic questions about what they knew and when they knew it. He says the public deserves answers.
It matters because we have a responsibility to the citizens of Baltimore to hold the city agencies that the taxpayers are paying for accountable. And when you have an agency like Monzi that's role is to oversee the public-private public safety partnerships, and they're not doing that, there needs to be some clarity as to what exactly it is that they are doing.
Fox 45 News is looking into some of those unanswered questions. Mackenzie Frost examines how Safe Streets mediations are tracked.
We know the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or Monzi, often touts the number of mediations completed by Safe Streets workers. But what defines a mediation and how is that information tracked really remains unknown. And these are just some of the latest questions for this gun violence prevention program. Mayor Brandon Scott routinely backs the city's flagship gun violence prevention program, Safe Streets.
I full and full support of what they do, and they handle things that I think that would scare most people.
But the mayor not revealing how the violence interrupters track their efforts. The mediations put into a software system, but what information is included in those mediations remains unclear, and Mayor Scott isn't giving details, even about the process.
Have you seen the form that the Safe Streets workers used when they go out in the communities and talk to people, that they keep track of their mediations?
I have probably not seen them in a long time, but I've been working with this organization for many, many years, so I know what they do. I full and full support of what they do.
Can the public see that form?
We're talking about a very privileged document, Mackenzie.
So there is a document does exist?
We're talking about a very sensitive process. We cannot put those workers at risk just because we want to think about and critique and criticize something that some people don't understand.
Can the public see a blank form?
I think the public should trust and know, just like they trust our police officers, that these lifesavers are out there doing their work.
After Mayor Scott's latest comments, Fox 45 News sent a few questions to his office asking what information is privileged when talking about the document used to record and track mediations. What is the public supposed to base their trust on for Safe Streets workers? Keeping the public in the dark about how tax dollars are spent in the multi-million-dollar Safe Streets program is really nothing new. Fox 45 News has been asking City Hall about how Safe Streets operates for nearly 2 years, like who oversees the day-to-day operations of the program, what type of training do the workers get, and who does it. Now, new insight into that training process.
This request is to approve the provider agreement with the University of Baltimore for creating and delivering a violence intervention certificate program.
The city's spending board approving more than $134,000 to partner with the University of Baltimore.
This agreement is for the development, creation, and implementation of a mediation certification curriculum.
Interim Monzi Director Stephanie Mavrona says the program is a way to help professionalize the work of Safe Streets workers.
Will this eventually become a requirement for employment?
So while it won't be a requirement, it is something that we will encourage all staff to participate in.
The plan moving forward.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved.
Launching in the fall with 20 people at first. The new training plan begs the question, who has been training the workers previously? While Monzi ignores most questions about the inner workings of Safe Streets. We're still waiting for answers from the mayor's office about those questions we sent to him. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
We'd like to hear from you. Should city leaders request a special prosecutor to invest Safe Streets? So far, 96% of voters say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
We are getting ready for our next weather maker. We had a nice and dry day, but that's going to change. We're keeping watch on this warm front as it lifts to the north and also on this cold front as it moves east. Behind that cold front, we're actually talking lower humidity for the weekend, but we're also talking rain and storms heading our way. Coming up in my full forecast, I'll have a look at the timing of the rain and how it could impact your morning commute. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10, tensions high as the trial for the Squeegee kid charged with murder continues. The bombshell accusations thrown at the victim as the proceeding nears an end. A tragic update to a story we brought you last month. What we're learning about a teen pulled out of a public pool amid ongoing problems with some of the facilities. And still ahead, a bold criminal targets Baltimore store twice. How he got away with it and how you can help bring him to justice in tonight's Maryland's Most Wanted.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Police make an arrest 7 months after a 19-year-old pregnant woman was shot and killed in North Baltimore. 22-year-old Malik McCormick has been charged with her death. Police say McCormick was arrested during a traffic stop in South Charleston, West Virginia, and extradited to Baltimore. Neighbors say they heard arguing before Jamira Burrell was killed.
An update in the case of Larry Hogan's former chief of staff, Roy McGrath. The FBI says the investigation into his death is ongoing. Authorities say agents shot and killed McGrath when they tried to arrest him in April. He had been on the run since early March after he failed to show up to his federal trial in Baltimore. He was facing charges of theft, wire fraud, and falsifying records. An FBI spokesperson telling Fox 45 News today, quote, the FBI's internal review of the agent-involved shooting that occurred during the attempted arrest of Roy McGrath has not been completed. As part of the process, the FBI waiting for both local and federal decisions before presenting the case to the Shooting Incident Review Board for final determination.
No, I wouldn't accuse him of being a racist.
What did he mean when he asked him if he was a Proud Boy then?
Oh, I think he was just trying to get clarity.
The tactics the defense is resorting to are desperate and a little pathetic.
Tensions remain high as the trial continues for the Squeegee worker accused of killing a man near the Inner Harbor last summer.
The defense rested its case today, and in court, a medical examiner's report revealing the victim, 48-year-old Timothy Reynolds, was shot in the back 3 times.
Plus, a bombshell accusation slung at the victim. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has the latest.
No, I wouldn't accuse of being a racist.
What did he mean when he asked him if he was a Proud Boy then?
Oh, I think he was just trying to get clarity on that word proud that was tattooed on his neck.
After days of intense testimony, a stunning accusation hurled at the victim. The question posed as a medical examiner described the tattoos documented on Timothy Reynolds' body. The defense pointing to one in particular, reading, "Mutant and Proud." Attorney J. Wendell Gordon asking, like, Proud Boy?
Proud, I don't know what that was all about. I just think it was inquiring about it.
Look, this is par for the course for defense attorneys who don't have a defense.
According to Tharu Naraja, an attorney representing the Reynolds family, his tattoos refer to a series of video games, comic book characters, superhero movies, and collectible playing cards.
Keep spreading your magic on us, brother.
Mutant and Proud, an X-Men reference.
If this is what the defense has got left in the tank, the family's got to feel good that there's no credible defense that's coming forward.
Testimony from the medical examiner completing the autopsy also revealing Reynolds' blood alcohol level was 0.03 at the time of his death, well below the legal limit, unraveling the defense's argument that Reynolds was acting in an alcohol-fueled rage. The bullet wounds also revealing Reynolds was shot 5 times, 3 of those times in the back.
The public was told that this was self-defense. You don't pull down a mask and then shoot a guy 3 times in the back and get to claim self-defense.
They have to prove he wasn't acting in defense of himself or others, and the evidence shows he was. Absolutely he was. This man wasn't shot until after that bat was swung.
Continuing to paint Reynolds as the aggressor, the defense calling the thoroughness of BPD's police work back into question, pressing the lead homicide detective on why more wasn't done to investigate the reason Reynolds approached 3 Squeegee kids with a bat. Detective John Amato admitting BPD is short-staffed. There were many leads in this case. He said, "I determined it was more important to investigate the suspect in this case rather than the victim." Amato going on to say this dashcam video, what makes this case murder, not self-defense. Timothy Reynolds was walking away, he said. However, later on in his testimony, Amato acknowledging the video is not great based on seeing people and what they're bringing and doing. He also said the bag with the suspect's DNA and several others where the alleged murder weapon was found is a community bag, not 16-year-old Tavon Scott's personal property.
That just kind of reflected, I think, that, he was very biased and not objective.
The tactics the defense is resorting to are desperate and a little pathetic.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
The trial resumes Monday. Trust Fox 45 News to keep you updated from court. We expect the case to wrap up next week. We'll have the latest on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
Well, seniors being taken advantage of. Straight ahead, how one Maryland lawmaker is fighting to stop scams aimed at older Americans.
Just how vulnerable are U.S. power grids to Chinese cyber attacks? I'm Atrell Nishar with the latest warning from energy officials.
We are getting ready for our next weather maker as it quickly approaches. It will lead to the chance for rain and storms tonight, and that will continue into tomorrow morning, possibly leading to a rainy commute. The good news is that by tomorrow night, we're back to dry weather and we stay dry over the weekend. Coming up, I'll have a look at the timing of the storms and impacts we could see in my Weather Authority forecast.
Let's take a look right now at the Fox box on the top left. Las Vegas police raided a home this week in connection with the 1996 murder of rapper Tupac Shakur. Now, the home belongs to Keith D. Davis, the uncle of a known suspect who died 2 years after Tupac did. Shakur is a Baltimore native.
Top right, New York City will pay more than $13 million for officers' treatment of protesters during the George Floyd demonstrations. The lawsuit accuses police of using unlawful tactics when arresting protesters. A judge must approve the settlement.
On the bottom left, the Senate Judiciary Committee is advancing a bill that would create a code of ethics for Supreme Court justices. No Republicans voted in favor of the bill, calling it an attack on conservative justices. Democrats argue the court needs more oversight when it comes to ethics.
Bottom right, the family of a U.S. soldier detained in Korea, North Korea, that is asking for privacy and prayers. Officials say Private Travis King crossed the line into the country this week. They say he's considered AWOL. His mother is speaking out today.
I just want my son back. I just want my son back. Get my son home. Get my son home. And pray that he comes back.
King had faced assault charges in South Korea and was due to possibly be removed from the military when he got back to the U.S. The Pentagon says it reached out to North Korea about King, but is not heard back.
You're looking at live pictures of the U.S. Capitol. Members of Congress are questioning the resilience of critical U.S. infrastructure against cyber threats. It comes as U.S. officials investigate a Chinese breach of email accounts at 2 federal agencies.
National correspondent Arthur El-Nashar reports on the latest warning from energy officials.
Infrastructure we rely on every day to switch the lights on, turn up the AC, or get on a train to go to work are under a growing threat of being hit by a cyber attack. And much of that threat is coming from China.
Regardless of how it happens, losing power for any period of time can upend our lives without warning.
House lawmakers this week hearing from energy experts in the public and private sectors warning about what China is capable of as tensions with the U.S. worsen, a potential Chinese invasion of Taiwan adding to the strain.
Chinese cyber activities are one of the most dynamic cyber threats. China continues to demonstrate increasing sophistication, including new and adaptive techniques to gain access to networks.
According to a report released earlier this year by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, China almost certainly is capable of launching cyber attacks that could disrupt critical infrastructure services within the United States, including against oil and gas pipelines and rail systems. A scenario, the report says, is plausible if Beijing feared a conflict with the U.S. was imminent and wanted to prevent American officials from making decisions by inducing societal panic and interfering with the deployment of troops.
This could shut down power to key national security facilities like military bases.
Guam, home to multiple U.S. military bases, is a clear target. It's where back in May, Microsoft uncovered malicious activity carried out by the state-sponsored Chinese actor known as Volt Typhoon, believed to be looking for ways to disrupt communication infrastructure between the U.S. and Asia during a future crisis.
This does represent a focus on critical infrastructure in particular, and that's obviously of real concern.
Experts say one of the most effective mitigation efforts would be quicker communication between the intelligence community and a private company when threats emerge, and not just threats from China, but also Russia and domestic extremists. In Washington, I'm Arthur El-Nashar.
Questions still remain 3 weeks after Brooklyn's mass shooting on Vincent Hill, coming up how one crucial clue could have been missed by Baltimore police.
And breaking news, police are on the scene of a reported shooting. This is a live look at that shooting. We'll tell you what we're learning coming up next.
A Baltimore man cuts off his ankle monitor while awaiting a drug trafficking trial. The arrest tonight in Maryland's Most Wanted.
A controversial witness on a controversial topic. I'm Christine Frizzau on Capitol Hill, where Republicans called Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to testify about censorship. What we learned ahead.
Fox 45 News is on the scene right now of live breaking news. This is in West Baltimore, where police are responding to a shooting.
The crime scene is in the Mosier neighborhood right by Riggs Avenue and Poplar Grove Street. Our newsroom is working to confirm some details, but there are reports of 2 people shot again. Baltimore police on the scene of a reported shooting right now in West Baltimore. Crime scene tape is up and officers on the scene will pass any new information to you once it comes in.
We're following 3 big stories right now at 10:30. We have a new episode of Maryland's Most Wanted tonight. Coming up in 15 minutes, the case of a teen accused of cutting off his ankle monitor and the search for a man connected to a string of violent armed robberies.
West Nile virus has been found in Anne Arundel County. The communities affected and how the state is responding.
Baltimore police continues to be under the microscope nearly 3 weeks after 30 people were shot in South Baltimore. How were police not ready for the community event?
It should have been picked up somewhere, especially if it's a yearly event. I mean, let's pretend there was no social media. This is a yearly event.
Well, the Baltimore City Council will once again invite public safety agencies to answer why no one seemed prepared for the Brooklyn Day event this year.
Tonight, Fox 45 News is looking into past Brooklyn Day events and asking how police missed this event.
Vincent Hill has our continued coverage.
Fox 45 reviewing videos of past Brooklyn Day block parties circulating on social media, showing a tale of 2 different parties. By day, marching bands, families, and cookouts. By night, large crowds, guns, songs about shootouts. These videos leading to more questions for Baltimore police. Fox 45 sending the following. For past Brooklyn Day events was a special unit assigned. How many officers were staffed to patrol the event? And how far out was the planning for previous Brooklyn Days? Baltimore police responding with a statement that reads in part, due to this being an ongoing and active criminal investigation, we are unable to comment.
I think there's several reasons why the criminal element comes out at night versus the day.
Law enforcement analyst Melissa Pinkleton explains why she believes bad things happen at night.
Nighttime, it's a lot harder to see. It's a lot harder for police to see. It's a lot harder for witnesses to see. It's a lot harder to see a black gun at nighttime.
Baltimore police maintain they didn't know when this year's Brooklyn Day would take place. Many questioning how that's possible.
I just pulled up Brooklyn Day on my Instagram right now. And you're telling me that we have an entire unit associated with this and they didn't pick that up?
It should have been picked up somewhere, especially if it's a yearly event.
3 hours before shots ring out. A noise complaint. The responding officer.
David, no for the noise complaint.
Coding the call, no police services needed. Acting Commissioner Richard Worley speaking to the City Council.
The process of this after action is we want to look at his or her body-worn camera. We want to look and see if they actually did go to the call and what they saw when they were at the call.
Now, earlier today, Acting Commissioner Richard Worley saying they were looking for at least 10 shooters in this mass shooting, or maybe even more. Live at BPD headquarters, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. A sad update tonight. A 16-year-old pulled from a Baltimore pool last month has died. The teen was pulled from the Roosevelt Park pool in Hamden on June 7th. Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley said a number of young people had gotten into the pool when it was closed. The teen has been hospitalized, but he passed away yesterday. Homicide detectives are looking into the case. And just yesterday, Fox 45 News questioned city leaders on the closures of 3 city pools. It comes as teens keep breaking into them. The Department of Rec and Park says the pools at Lake Clifton, Cherry Hill, and Patterson Park are undergoing renovations. Mayor Scott addressing the closures.
We were scheduled to break ground on a new Patterson Park pool. But the council member and community asked that we make stopgap repairs in an attempt to keep the pool open this summer instead of just closing it for renovation. And despite my concerns that we would end up where we are today. Our young people deserve to swim in pools like anybody else in this state, region, and country.
Both Patterson Park and Cherry Hill will remain closed for the 2023 swim season. Lake Clifton is set to be reopened on Friday.
A woman is at shock trauma tonight after she was rescued from the Chesapeake Bay. It happened near Cecil County. Crews were able to locate the woman who was unconscious, but it's unclear what happened to her. She was airlifted to Baltimore where she's being treated.
2 cases of the West Nile virus have been found in Arundel County, marking the first cases recorded in the country this year. The county's health department says the virus was found in 2 mosquitoes they trapped. No cases have been found in people yet. On Sunday night, crews with the Department of Agriculture will be spraying the area of Crane Highway and Davidsonville Road. It's going to be done around 7 p.m. and they want people to avoid being outside at that time. Most people exposed to the virus don't develop symptoms, but a few will have symptoms like nausea, headache, fever, muscle, and joint aches.
Maryland Congressman Kwesi Mfume introduces new legislation to protect older Americans from fraud. It would require creditors to create a direct phone line for anyone 50 and older to use to help get their money back from a scammer. The congressman says this has been a major problem for people across the country that needs to be addressed.
This bill really becomes a lifeline that we are throwing out to older Americans to be able to, number one, protect themselves. Number two, to set up federal punishment for those persons who are caught doing this.
Well, that bill would require all creditors to create the toll-free phone line that must be operated and answered by real people. It must include Spanish language options, and agents would not be allowed to ask for personal information like Social Security numbers.
More Baltimore residents are joining the class action lawsuit against BGE. The residents speaking out today saying BGE forced them to allow construction that damaged their historic homes while the company installed new external gas regulators. The homeowners also voicing safety concerns, saying a car accident in the neighborhood last week nearly hit one of these external regulators.
There is no protection for these regulators. Nothing is protecting these gas regulators. And this is our concern. What are you all going to do? Because now we've had an accident and they just came in inches of blowing up the whole neighborhood.
BGE maintains it had the right to make the changes to the gas service in Baltimore neighborhoods and that the new regulators are necessary for proper gas delivery and safety.
What's the role of the federal government, if any, in preventing misinformation from being spread on social media?
That question at the heart of a hearing on Capitol Hill today. National correspondent Christine Frizzau has details.
Former Democrat.
On Capitol Hill, a spotlight on censorship. Republicans making the case it's happening consistently, with social media companies often taking cues from government officials.
Big tech, big government working together. Big media working all together to censor American speech.
The author of multiple stories about Hunter Biden's laptop, published in the New York Post in October of 2020, recounting what happened next.
Twitter refused to allow users to share the link to the stories, banned the links from being shared in private messages, a policy, by the way, that's used to clamp down on child porn.
Another topic, posts about COVID-19. Top social media executives recently revealed they were in fact asked to be taken down by those inside the federal government.
Do you swear?
A chief witness, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's running for president against Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. It's the second day in a row Republicans have called a Democrat to testify.
People are saying that I must be more credible because I'm a Democrat who happens to be married to a man.
On Wednesday, it was the lead IRS agent in the Hunter Biden tax probe. Now, RFK Jr. asked to share his experience of what he deems censorship, including when he posted about baseball legend Hank Aaron dying a few weeks after receiving his COVID vaccine.
My Hank Aaron post, it was taken down. First Amendment was not written for easy speech. It was written for the speech that nobody likes you for.
Democrats arguing even the First Amendment has limits.
If MAGA Republicans agree with you, you're given a platform to spread any conspiracy theories, no matter how harmful. And if they disagree with you, you get death threats until you have to go away.
Also warning of the dangers that come from the amplification of disinformation.
This committee has come to embody weaponization itself, misusing congressional oversight to protect Donald Trump and attempt to divert attention.
This hearing, one of many, to question the role of federal government officials in communicating with social media companies. A federal judge recently ruled they should almost never be allowed to do so, a ruling now challenged by the White House. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
The Florida Board of Education approves a controversial new set of standards for how Black history should be taught in public schools. The new standards would require instruction for middle school students to include, quote, how slaves developed skills in which some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. Critics call it a step backward, saying it doesn't give students an honest picture of history. Supporters push back on that, saying it doesn't remove anything about U.S. history from the curriculum and does not teach that slavery was beneficial.
Well, Fox 45 is home for the FIFA Women's World Cup. Nigeria and Canada are facing off right now on Fox 45. That's why we're here on the CW. The World Cup continues tomorrow night, and you'll be able to find our 10 o'clock news right here on the CW Friday night.
A narrow escape, straight ahead, harrowing video shows the moments two cars collided earlier today, barely missing a woman.
Black had returned to the same Family Dollar and robbed it a second time.
Correct.
The search is on tonight for one of Maryland's most wanted. Next, the man wanted in a string of violent robberies around Baltimore.
And our next weather maker is on the way, and that's going to lead to rain and storms, but it will also result in lower humidity for the weekend. I'll break down the timing of the storms and what you